Welcome, fellow explorers of the unknown, to a journey into the heart of a city that never sleeps, but where some spirits never rest. Tonight, we're venturing into the neon-lit streets and hidden alleyways of Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon, the place where history and modernity collide, and where the past lingers in ways you can't always see. Beyond the bustling markets and the incredible food, there are whispers of another world, a world of shadows and echoes. We're about to uncover the 5 most haunted locations in this vibrant metropolis. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to hear the chilling tales that locals share only in hushed tones. Our first destination is a place that has become a legend in its own right, a concrete giant that once stood as a monument to ambition, but now crumbles under the weight of its own dark secrets.
We're heading to the infamous 727 Tran Hung Dao apartment complex. Now, just to be clear, this building has since been demolished, but its ghost story is so powerful, so deeply ingrained in the city's psyche, that it lives on, a chilling reminder of what once was. Picture this, a towering, 13-story structure, built in the 1960s. It was meant to be the pinnacle of luxury, a hotel designed by a wealthy Vietnamese businessman, Nguyen Tan Doi. It was supposed to be a symbol of Saigon's prosperity. But from the very beginning, something was wrong. The construction was plagued by a series of horrific and unexplained accidents. Workers fell from scaffolding, equipment malfunctioned with deadly consequences, and a strange sense of unease settled over the entire site. The project stalled. Money was hemorrhaging, and Doi was desperate. So, he turned to a sorcerer, a shaman who offered a truly gruesome solution. To appease the angry spirits of the land, the shaman allegedly told Doi that a powerful sacrifice was needed. The story goes that 4 virgins were brought to the site, their bodies entombed within the concrete walls of the building itself, a horrifying practice known as whim. The idea was to create 4 ghost guardians to protect the building forever. After this dark ritual, the accidents stopped. The hotel was completed. But Doi, perhaps haunted by his own actions, never opened it as a hotel. Instead, he sold it off as apartments, and the building became known as the President Hotel. But the story doesn't end there. The building had 13 floors, a number considered deeply unlucky in many cultures. To counter this, Doi named the building the President Hotel, which has 13 letters in its English name. A clever trick, but it wasn't enough to ward off the darkness. Soon after families moved in, the paranormal activity began. Residents reported hearing the terrified screams of women echoing through the halls at night, cries that seemed to come from inside the very walls. Doors would slam shut on their own, objects would fly across rooms, and shadowy figures were seen darting down the corridors. The elevators were particularly notorious, often traveling to the 13th floor on their own, even though the buttons were never pressed. Once there, the doors would open to an empty, dark hallway, and a wave of icy cold air would rush into the car. Many families fled, unable to live with the constant fear. Over the years, the once grand building fell into disrepair. It became a derelict, graffiti-covered shell, a magnet for urban explorers and ghost hunters. Those brave enough to enter reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. They'd capture strange EVP's electronic voice phenomena of women weeping and pleading for help. Some even claimed to see full-bodied apparitions of young women in traditional white dresses, their faces etched with sorrow, wandering the abandoned halls before vanishing into thin air. Even after its demolition, The land where 727 Tran Hung Dao once stood is said to be heavy with a sorrowful energy. The story of the four sacrificed souls serves as a chilling legend, a warning that some foundations are built on more than just concrete and steel. From the modern ruins of a haunted apartment, our journey now takes us to a place of beauty and culture, a building that houses priceless treasures of Vietnamese art. But behind its elegant French colonial facade, the Ho Chi Minh City Museum of Fine Arts holds a dark secret. A family tragedy that has stained its history and is said to have left a permanent spiritual scar. Before it was a museum, this stunning building was the private mansion of the Hui family. They were one of the wealthiest and most influential Chinese Vietnamese families in Saigon during the early 20th century. The patriarch, Huabon Hoa, also known as Uncle Hoa, was a business tycoon with a vast empire. He had 3 sons, and they all lived in this opulent villa. The story centers around his youngest and only daughter. She was said to be incredibly beautiful, the apple of her father's eye. But one day, she was suddenly struck by a mysterious and severe illness. Some accounts say it was leprosy, a disease that carried a terrible stigma at the time. To avoid shame and protect the family's reputation, the Hui family didn't send her away for treatment. Instead, they allegedly locked her away in a room on the top floor of the mansion. She was completely isolated from the outside world, her only contact being a servant who brought her food. Imagine the loneliness, the despair. Trapped in that single room, listening to the sounds of the vibrant city outside, her life slowly faded away. She died alone, her heart broken. Devastated by grief and guilt, the family held a funeral, but it was a quiet, secretive affair. They buried her, but it seems her spirit never found peace. When the mansion was eventually converted into the Museum of Fine Arts in the 1980s, the strange occurrences began. Staff and late-night security guards started reporting unnerving experiences. They would hear the faint, heartbreaking sound of a woman crying, the sobs echoing from the top floor where she was once imprisoned. The sound is often described as so full of sorrow it sends a chill down your spine. Others have reported seeing the ghostly figure of a young woman in a long white dress gracefully descending the grand central staircase. She appears for a moment, a fleeting vision of tragic beauty, before dissolving into nothing. The elevator, much like the one in our previous story, is also said to have a mind of its own, frequently traveling to the top floor and opening its doors, as if waiting to pick up a passenger who is no longer there. Some visitors to the museum, completely unaware of the legend, have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature and an inexplicable sense of sadness in certain areas of the building, particularly near that fateful room on the top floor. Is it just the weight of history in an old building, or is it the lingering presence of a lonely soul, forever trapped within the beautiful walls that were once her prison? Now, let's step away from the man-made structures and venture into a place where nature and the supernatural intertwine. Our next stop is the Saigon Zoo and Botanical Gardens. It's one of the oldest zoos in the world, a place filled with the sounds of exotic animals and the laughter of children. But after the sun sets and the gates are locked, some say a different kind of life awakens, one rooted in a dark chapter of Vietnam's history. The story dates back to the early 20th century, during the French colonial period. During one of the resistance movements against the French, a group of Vietnamese revolutionaries were captured. According to the legend, the French authorities decided to make a brutal example of them. In a horrifying act of cruelty, they allegedly executed the revolutionaries and buried their bodies somewhere within the grounds of the zoo. But the desecration didn't stop there. The story continues that a large tree was planted directly over their mass grave. As the years passed, this particular tree grew to be massive, its branches twisting towards the sky. But it became known for something other than its size. People began to associate it with strange and unsettling events. After dark, zoo staff and security guards would report hearing disembodied voices speaking in Vietnamese, faint whispers and angry murmurs seeming to emanate from the vicinity of the tree. Sometimes they would hear the chilling sound of marching footsteps on the empty pathways, as if a spectral platoon was still patrolling the grounds. The most terrifying claim, however, is the apparition of a spectral soldier. He is described as a man with a full beard, his face contorted in anger or agony. He is said to appear suddenly near the cursed tree, a silent, menacing figure who stares at onlookers before fading away. Some stories even claim that during the Vietnam War, American soldiers stationed nearby would see this ghostly figure and, mistaking him for an enemy soldier, would open fire, only for their bullets to pass right through him. There's another, equally tragic tale connected to the zoo. It involves an elephant that was killed during a bombing raid in the war. Keepers say that on quiet nights, you can still hear the phantom trumpeting of a mournful elephant, a ghostly echo of its violent and untimely death. The Saigon Zoo is a place of life, but these stories suggest it's also a place of memory, where the violent echoes of the past refuse to fade, and the spirits of those who died unjustly still wander the grounds, their presence a somber reminder of a history that should never be forgotten. Our fourth location takes us to a place shrouded in mystery and urban legend, a building that stands as a silent testament to a horrific crime. We're heading to an abandoned villa in District 3, a place that locals avoid, especially after dark. The story here is a brutal and straightforward tale of murder, one that has left a dark stain that many believe can still be felt today. The legend centers on a French officer who lived in this villa with his family during the colonial era. He was known to be a wealthy and powerful man. One night, while the officer was away on business, a group of burglars broke into the house. They were expecting to find valuables, but they were interrupted by the officer's wife and children. What happened next was an act of unspeakable violence. The burglars, in a fit of panic and cruelty, murdered the entire family. When the officer returned, he was met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Consumed by grief and rage, he sold the villa and left Vietnam, never to return. The house was left empty, and it quickly fell into a state of decay. But the tragedy that occurred within its walls seemed to linger. Locals who lived nearby began to report strange sounds coming from the abandoned house at night. They would hear the frantic screams of a woman and the terrified cries of children, phantom sounds of their final, horrifying moments. It was as if the crime was replaying itself over and over, an endless loop of terror trapped within the building. People also claimed to see ghostly figures in the windows. A woman's silhouette would appear, her face pale with fear, or the small shapes of children would be seen peering out into the darkness before quickly vanishing. The air around the villa is said to be heavy and oppressive, filled with a palpable sense of sorrow and fear. For decades, no one dared to live there. Anyone who tried to buy the property or even stay the night was quickly driven away by the intense paranormal activity. They would report doors flying open and slamming shut, disembodied whispers begging for help, and the terrifying feeling of being touched by unseen hands. Over time, the villa became completely derelict, its gardens overgrown, its windows shattered. It stands as a grim landmark, a place that the city seems to have forgotten, but the spirits within have not. It serves as a stark reminder that some places are forever marked by the violence they have witnessed, and the echoes of a family's final moments can resonate through time, a ghostly cry for justice that has never been answered. For our final tale, we're not visiting a building, but a stretch of road, a modern artery of the city that is said to be a pathway for the dead. We are heading to the area near the Thu Thiem Tunnel, a massive underwater tunnel that connects District 1 with the new Thu Thiem urban area. Before this tunnel and the surrounding developments were built, this part of the city was a quiet, almost rural-feeling area. But to build this modern marvel, a vast cemetery had to be cleared. Thousands of graves were exhumed and relocated. It was a massive undertaking, and while every effort was made to do it respectfully, many believe that not all the spirits were appeased. The legend goes that many souls were disturbed, their final resting places disrupted, and now they are lost, forever wandering the area where they were once buried. The road leading to and from the tunnel, particularly the Maikaido Boulevard, has become notorious for paranormal sightings and a tragically high number of traffic accidents. Drivers, especially late at night, have reported sudden, terrifying encounters. The most common story is that of a ghostly hitchhiker. A driver will see a figure, often described as a woman in a white-out dye or a shadowy man, standing on the side of the road, trying to flag them down. If the driver stops, the figure vanishes. If the driver doesn't stop, they might glance in their rearview mirror only to see the figure suddenly sitting in their back seat, a terrifying apparition that disappears as quickly as it appeared, often causing the driver to swerve or crash. Another common report is of phantom figures darting out into the road. Drivers slam on their brakes to avoid hitting a person who seems to appear from nowhere, only to find that there is no one there. The figure vanishes into thin air, leaving the driver shaken and terrified. Some motorcyclists have reported feeling an invisible weight settle on the seat behind them, as if an unseen passenger has climbed on for a ride, accompanied by a sudden, bone-chilling cold. The sheer number of accidents on this stretch of road has led many to believe that they are not mere coincidences. They believe these lost and angry spirits are causing the crashes, either intentionally or by simply disorienting drivers with their spectral appearances. It's a modern ghost story, a clash between the rapid pace of development and the ancient belief that the dead must be allowed to rest in peace. The Thu Thiem Road serves as a chilling warning that even as we build our shining cities of the future, we must never forget the ground beneath our feet and the history and the spirits that lie buried there. From a crumbling apartment complex built on sacrifice to a beautiful museum haunted by a family tragedy, a historic zoo where the ghosts of war still march, a derelict villa echoing with a final scream, and a modern highway paved over restless graves, the stories of haunted Saigon are a powerful reminder that the past is never truly gone. It lingers in the shadows, in the whispers on the wind, and in the places that hold its darkest secrets. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the spectral heart of Ho Chi Minh City. Stay curious and keep exploring the unknown. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more adventures into the world's most haunted places. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.